Guys, welcome back. Working Class on DeerCast, another episode this week. Thank you for supporting us and DeerCast. If you're listening somewhere other than DeerCast, we have a promo code in the description. We'll save you some money on this one social platform, but a tool for your deer hunting this fall. So don't overlook that or forget about it. I think DeerCast is one of the best tools for mapping, predictive tools, weather tool, and just a ton more. So we'll do that for you. If you're not already on DeerCast, we'll have that promo code. This week, my buddy Jacob Johnson is joining me via on lunch break from work.
Yeah. Yep. How's it going, guys?
What's up, dude? So for you guys that maybe follow Working Class Bowhunter but might not know or have seen it and are confused, Jacob hosts our firearm focused podcast called The Victory Drive. And Jacob, tell us about the Victory Drive, what you're doing, how it's been going. You've been around 3 months roughly. So
Yep. Yeah. We're up and running. It's going great. It's like you said, it's the firearm wing of Working Class Bowhunter, I guess, because I mean, you're starting a whole family of podcasts going on here in the outdoor industry, and it's exciting, and I'm very glad to be a part of it in the firearm side. And yeah, like we've talked before, I have a military background, shot a lot of guns, and my first true passion has always been like guns and shooting and firearms and that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, it's going great so far. We've had some awesome guests on, and yeah, things are rolling around pretty good. So,
well, it's not that like on Working Class Bowhunter, it's not that like we don't gun hunt or don't like guns. It's none of that. Our just main passions and more of our knowledge and conversations they're bow hunting based first.
mm-hmm.
But it's, even though we might be interested in like tactical stuff, military stuff, like police related stuff, or long range rifle shooting or deer hunting or super turkey gun focused podcasts or whatever it may be, that's stuff that we are interested in, but maybe not, we don't have the right like angle to bring the conversation to like talk about it in an entertaining fashion. And so that's why we were thinking a firearm like chapter would be great. And we've known you for 3 years now. We can talk about that backstory, how we met, but
yeah,
you were just kind of like the perfect candidate for it. And it all just worked out when we asked you about doing it. It's like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I mean,
it's killing it.
Yeah. It's been a great time. And I mean, we've talked about this for probably about a year or so too. Just kind of going back and forth and just trying to get the timing right and everything. And yeah, it's like everything you just said. I'm that same way, just kind of, I guess, flip flop. Like I got into bow hunting late and archery and all that stuff late, but I've always been into guns and shooting and firearms and that kind of stuff. So everything you just said on the bow hunting sides, I'm the exact almost flip flop of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. Makes perfect sense. And then also too, it's like, I know a lot of our listeners might be the way you are, Jacob, with that like flip flop from kind of like our main, I don't know, expertise or passion. And a lot of our listeners, they're either that way or they just do both equally or interested in shooting sports as equally as bow hunting. And like even the DeerCast community, like, you see what the juries do, like they're not bow only,
right?
They do it all. But, a lot more besides hunting is fair game with the Victory Drive, like, especially with like your military background. If you want to touch on some of that, like I find some of that stuff interesting because I don't know anything about it. And it's cool to hear some of the stories from some other guys that you've interviewed that have served time in the military.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one thing you're not going to get with Victory Drive is I don't consider myself an expert in really anything, because if you call yourself an expert, I really feel like you gotta know about everything about whatever you're saying you're an expert in. But I know enough about guns and firearms and ballistics and all that stuff to have a good conversation with a lot of guys. But the military side, that's one thing too that I really want to touch on with this podcast as well, because being in the military and living that life for as long as I did, it's just one of those things that as a civilian that's never been in the military, it's a completely different world. Like all civilians see like the soldiers on the, walking around, you see this outward perception of what a soldier is. Then when you get in the trenches with the soldier in that lifestyle, it's completely different. It's, it's one of those things I tell people a lot, like especially people I know that maybe they don't cuss, or maybe they're pretty polished up. They're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, thank you for your service and everything. I love everything you guys do. I'm like, yeah, but if you heard us talk, you would not like us. I know you,
Yeah.
and I know you wouldn't appreciate the way that we talk to each other. It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
But
But
it's cool to bring that to light.
well, I think that's the best thing about it. Like, and you have to be that way. You can be polished, but
Hmm.
it's better if you're doing some of this work the way what you guys have done. And I know some stories from you, and it's like a weird thing is being a civilian. It's like, what do you ask and not ask, and
Hmm.
what's offensive? Because I'm genuinely curious about a lot of it, and I respect it, and that's why I want to know about the stories. So
Hmm.
that's why I get excited when you have military focused episodes come out, because I can kind of listen and not be like intrusive, because whatever gets brought up between you guys is fair game.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the
You
thing.
know?
I don't ever get offended by anyone's questions, because it is an interesting thing. That's why I joined the military in the first place too. Because, well, that's not why, but it's one reason why, is because it was interesting. It's something that you don't know, and you don't see everything when you're on the outside looking in. So I never take offense to any questions. I don't care who's asking or what they're asking. If I don't want to answer, I'll just tell them, like, you know what, certain things I talk
Shut
about,
up.
certain things I don't.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's a certain audience, I guess. Yeah, if I'm talking to the right people, I'll say more. If it's basically, it's like, if I feel like I can trust you, I'll tell you everything, you know. But it's one
Yeah.
of those things too, like when you're sitting there with a guy that you were there with, it's completely different, because
Yeah.
they were there, they get it, they know they know the lingo. It's I don't know, it is different. So I do
Yeah.
understand
It's a
on your
brotherhood, man.
side.
It's a brotherhood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand from the listener's side. It's like, yeah, it is totally different listening to veteran on veteran talk rather than veteran on civilian talk.
Yeah.
It's a different
Yeah. And
atmosphere.
I think that's like a big perk to this series, because a lot of our listeners are like probably in the same boat that I am in. And we've always done like the
Hmm.
veteran shout out, or try to do it as often as possible. So it kind of like makes sense for us to have this a part of the WCB family. But, I think something like we could utilize with DeerCast for Victory Drive is like listeners that maybe served in the military and might have a specific passion in shooting sports, or even it can even be archery related stuff. It's like,
Hmm.
I'm sure you're open to guest ideas and topic ideas and all that, because we're here for the listener or for the viewer, both. Um, so that's the best feedbacks. And I see so much more potential in the future of Victory Drive with just possible topics, because it's not just hunting, like it's
Yeah,
military, it's like shooting sports and rifles or muzzle loading and all that. Like it's an endless spew of content that you could just dive into.
yeah, it is. I'm very excited, very very excited for it, because it is just a different realm. Like, I guess I don't even know if I'd say, yeah, it's a hunting podcast, it's an outdoor podcast, it's a shooting podcast, it's all these other things all into one, but it's not too broad where it feels weird. Like,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
still focused on fire. Like, I guess, I don't know, my slogan, or my short description of Victory Drive. It's a gun podcast. It's a podcast about guns and the people behind them. It's not just
yeah,
tip. It's not super niche where you're gonna come to Victory Drive to learn all about every caliber versus caliber, or ballistics, or all that stuff. Like, we're gonna talk about all that stuff, but it's a very conversational base, and kind of see where the wind blows kind of deal. And
yeah,
it can go a lot of different ways. And I'm really excited for the off season, honestly, like with hunting, and just staying hunting season only being so, like, a pretty short window in everyone's lives. I love talking about it and everything else, but also the off season is interesting, because there's a lot of recreational shooters out there that, you know, they're cool, like, they're interesting. And on the flip side too,
yeah,
I've talked about this a bunch of different times too, but we're all on the same team. Like, we look at the Pittman Robertson Act, like, recreational shooters, they contribute to conservation and everything that we like to do, and a lot of them don't even
yeah.
step foot in the woods. So
Yeah, it's all our people.
yes.
Hunt. Like, I consider everything we've talked about. It's our people. It's almost this. This might sound bad, and maybe you agree or disagree. And I'd like to. If you have a hot take on it, by all means, like, put me in my place. But it's almost kind of like there's everybody else and then our people. And it's like, I feel like we're always fighting to keep our stuff around.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Kind of what I'm getting at there?
Yeah.
Like
No. Yeah.
it's almost, you can boil it down to you're pro gun or anti gun.
Yes.
And then that's like the most hardest line of like your hunters, your military guy, your good military guys, all that stuff, your policemen, your American heroes, your firefighters, all that, your hunters, your archers, your sport shooters, all that is on probably more than likely on the pro gun side.
Yeah. More
And
than
then there's
likely.
everybody else.
Yeah. No,
And
that makes total sense to me.
yeah,
Because
I mean, I don't know. I'm an ass sometimes,
no,
but that's kind of how I view it.
I do
I don't know if
too.
that's healthy or unhealthy.
Well, it's one of those things where, I guess it's harder to defend. Like, I had a wrestling coach. He always told me. He always told us, he's like, the best defense is a good offense. And it's one of those things where guys like us, we generally just like to do our thing and be left alone. And a lot of times we don't really notice until all of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, like what's going on here? Like now they're trying to take away our gun rights, or they're trying to take away certain hunting rights, or they're trying to take away certain things, and we didn't even see it coming a lot of times because we're not paying attention, because we're totally content doing what we want to do and everything is fine and we're happy. And then all of a sudden, like, now you're going to be a felon if you own a piece of plastic that goes on the back of your gun, you know? So
Yeah.
it's one of those things where we're kind of, a lot of times guys like us are late to the game and late to knowing what's going on. And it's all reaction, and it's all reactive rather than proactive. And the
Right.
people that are constantly on attack, whether it's the people that are trying to take away certain guns or trying to take away hunting, those people are always on the attack. Those groups are always on the attack. That's what they base their groups out of, is being on the attack. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to attack this because it's not right. And they
Whether
are,
it's, and a lot of it's like ethically or not.
yeah. And a lot of it's just, they're playing on emotions, and they're like, and that's a hard battle to fight, when people are emotional and they're like, yeah, this sucks. We need to do something about this. And they get a lot of support. And it's like, man, well, hate to break it to you, but got to put emotions aside here and talk logically about this stuff. And it's hard to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Like even hunting,
Mm-hmm.
people get emotionally driven on hunting. Like, we saw some of it when we went to Africa, and that's another thing, like, touches on with this series. What I'm excited about is you kind of have more of a fair game opportunity to talk about politics, because it directly relates to firearms more so than it does general hunting or bow hunting. And we try to avoid that conversation on Working Class Bowhunter and Working Class on DeerCast, because it just, one, we see so much of it that I want our show to generally be the escape from that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, laugh, learn about hunting, think about other stuff. But it's needed though in your podcast topics. Like, you have to talk politics, and it's not really like, maybe some of it can be opinion based on what you think, but a lot of it's going to be, this is what's happening. And then you and whoever else is on the show with you, it's like the take on it from there.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. And that's one of those things. I used to do a politically based podcast way back in the day with my brother and stuff. And
Yeah.
it was small time, but it's one of those things, man. It's like, it's not fun talking about politics. It's not fun, especially when you start digging into the weeds and realize, what type of person a lot of these politicians are. It makes you sick. And you're just like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
This is icky. I just want to get away from it. And it's a lot easier just to, put your head in the sand and ignore it, which I totally 100% agree. Like, that is nice. But it's one of those things where, being in having a firearm based podcast, it's one of those things. It's almost a necessity, because if I don't talk about it and kind of get people, I just get some of the knowledge out there to people, at least to understand what's happening. Not even necessarily like I'm going to tell my opinion about it, because I don't care. And whoever I have on, they're going to say their opinions.
That's WCB style,
Yeah.
anyway.
I'm going to say
Yep,
we're going to say our opinions, and you don't have to like it or anything like that. But at the same time, we're also going to put a lot of the facts out there and be like, this is, trying to be factual about things as well. Especially when it comes to that kind of stuff. It's tough, because it's firearms and guns are constantly under attack. It seems like every other week there's a shooting that gets blown up, and then here we go again, back to the gun argument and all that stuff. And if you look at countries like Australia, like this really ties into hunting and bow hunting, especially where, you know, a country like Australia, they got rid of all their guns essentially, and now
Wow.
they're got rid of all their guns, but
Yeah.
they essentially banned them, and now they're going after bow hunting. You know, they're just going after hunting in general. So they're going after bow hunting in Australia, saying that's unethical because it.
See, I'm not even in. Goes exactly what you said earlier. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
And that's like what I do.
Yep.
So it's like all of a sudden now I'm on the, not that I live in Australia. I mean, but like, it's like, oh, they're doing what? You know what I mean? It's like, who knew that was coming? But how many bow hunters are in Australia? I'm sure a lot, but.
Well, all the hunters that used to be gun hunters, then they can't have guns. They're like, well, I guess I'm going to bow hunt now. And then they're like, well, and then the people that got rid of the guns, like, well, maybe we should just leave the shooting of animals to the government because we can't do it right. You know?
So wild.
It is wild. And it's one of those things, man, like I try to talk about, like with the gun thing, the Second Amendment protects a lot of our rights. And once guns go away, these people, these types, the anti-hunting, anti-gun, those types of people, they're not going to go away. And they've based their entire livelihood and their life on attacking. So if guns go away, then what else are they going to do? They're going to sit around and be like, yep, mission accomplished, guys. Let's pack up shop and call her a night. No, they're going to be like, well, we need to keep going because that's the only way we get funding and get support. So
yeah. Man, it's a weird time nowadays. And thinking back when I was a kid, I brought this up on the podcast a couple of times, maybe not on DeerCast, but when you were a kid, all kids should be left in the dark when it comes to politics at a certain age, right?
Yes.
It's like, I don't want my daughter knowing what's going on. She doesn't need to know what's going on. She's a child. Let her be a kid. And I felt like, and maybe this is why I feel this way from that reason, but I feel like things are crazier now, but I don't know if it's just because I'm an adult and now know this stuff. You know what I mean? Versus like a kid and I didn't need to know about it because I should be a kid.
Yeah.
It's like, it makes me wonder, like, I want to ask my mom, like, are things crazier now?
Certainly.
Or has it always been crazy?
I wouldn't say that it's out, and it's always been crazy to a certain extent. It's one of those things where it is going to generationally get crazier because the definition of being a progressive is that you're progressing towards something, right? Whether, whatever that is. So it's constantly changing generation to generation. It's
Cultural
changing.
shift,
It's
I think,
cultural.
is the main mission.
Yep. But you'll also see, like, I'm hopeful. I'm naturally an optimist. So I'm really hoping that it's just it's just coming back circle, it's coming back around. It's like, okay, we went too far to this way. Let's bring her back around, and I'm hoping that that's
it kind of auto steers a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that's how America as a country was founded and how it was kind of supposed to be. It's like, hey, we have people over here and people over here, and we can still talk to each other because we hold the same values and morals, core values as Americans, right? And I'm hoping that it just kind of circles back around and gets back to, I don't know, just keeping each other in check. I'm just really hoping. Yeah.
Well, it's like you see all this stuff going on. It's a bummer, especially anything like Second Amendment controversial. Like, I have guns. I love guns. Now I don't go shoot every day for sport shooting. You know what I mean? But I have them. I enjoy them. I enjoy more 2A stuff and culture than I do like going to the range every day. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm very for it. I'll do what I can to support it. And I think that's most people in the hunting community and probably in the military community as well. But because you were in the Army for 10 years.
Yeah, just about.
And you did, you went overseas, and I'm not trying to like brag on you. I'm kind of wanting you to elaborate a little bit, but what I want to get is like, did you see, like, when you were overseas, and you can talk about where you went and what you did if you want, but what was like the political mindset of people you were around? You can't really speak for everybody, but like your main core, like, what was that like?
Yeah. So I was in the Army for almost 10 years. I was infantry and also artillery, and did that thing. Um, I was when I was like in Afghanistan, especially. So I deployed to Afghanistan for a year in 2010, 2011. And you're talking about what were our like politically, how was it? Like the
Well,
vibe
it's
in the
like
military?
yeah, because I wouldn't imagine that there's everybody over there is going to be anti-Second Amendment or
No,
like,
yeah, most of the guys
you know,
most of the guys I was with, I mean, we're all it's yeah, pretty standard. Exactly what you're thinking is probably pretty damn close,
okay.
honestly. But politically wise, like yeah, a lot of us didn't really enjoy a whole lot of stuff that was going on, but especially overseas, you don't we didn't have the luxury of really paying that much attention. I guess at the time, we had a lot of other stuff we had to get done, and we had a lot
Yeah.
of other things to worry about rather than what was going on politically.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. We just did what we had to do, and focus on what we were there to do. We didn't really worry about anything
Yeah.
else, and I mean that does get you
Yeah.
in trouble to a certain extent, especially when you're talking like ROE, because who comes up with the ROE, like the rules of engagement while you're over there? It's politicians talking to generals, talking to other
Mm.
people, and they make the decisions for us, and then they disseminate down like a specialist or a
Yeah,
sergeant.
this might be a dumb question.
Huh?
Rules of engagement, like engagement as in what do you mean by engagement?
Engaging the enemy. So
Okay.
when we were over there, like when okay, back in 2001 when we first invaded Afghanistan, the ROE or rules of engagement was like pretty much anyone that has a gun, let her rip kind of deal. Like if they're it
Yeah.
was a lot more open. Then it got a little bit tighter and a little bit tighter as the war progressed. Um, when I was there in 2010, it was really I mean, we've already been at war for almost 10, it was a 10-year anniversary, I guess, when I was there, because I was there 10 to 11. So the ROE definitely changed a lot from when it first started to then. And our rule of engagement was that basically we couldn't do anything unless it was a direct threat. So if they were actively shooting at us, then we could shoot back. If they were actively planting a bomb in the middle of the road, then we could engage them. But it had to be a direct threat to us or
Yeah.
our assets, I guess.
Yeah, that makes
Yep.
sense, I guess. And I don't know, we don't got to get that. If people want to hear more on that, just
Yeah.
tune into the Victory Drive because I'm sure you can get more into that on some episodes. But in that 10 years, did in the military, not necessarily like overseas, but like, did you notice like a big shift in like
hmm
attitude within a 10-year
Yep.
span?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. That's why I got out. Honestly,
Really?
that's why I got out of the military was that it was when I first joined, it was very, like I said, we didn't really pay attention to politics that much because we had other things to do. And we always felt insulated because it's like, well, we're in the military. Like the only thing we're here to do is be effective at war, especially
Mhm.
as an infantryman. Like your main objective, everything you do from basic training to deploying overseas, you're training like let's be honest, you're to kill people, to
Yeah.
kill the enemy.
Yeah.
That's your job, especially as an infantryman. That's your job.
Yeah.
So you need to be physically fit. You need to shoot well. You need to do all these other things to be successful when you're deployed. And as politics started seeping into the military, I started seeing, I'm like, okay, this is getting a little too far. And everyone has their own opinions. You can go look up what big policy changes have happened from the year of 2008 when I joined to 2018 when I got out. There's a lot of change, and that's a huge reason why I got there. I mean, I just couldn't handle it anymore. I'm like, this isn't the military that I grew up in. So I just can't. I don't know. I just couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle being away from friends and family to do something that I didn't like to do anymore, to fight for people that don't care about me. So I figured it'd be better
Yeah.
to go back home and be a dad and be productive in my own local community because those people actually care about me. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't know that feeling, but I can see the way you explained it. I can understand it, I think, a little
mhm.
bit. I mean, I'll never fully understand it because I was never there, but I do appreciate your service, man. I do
Yeah,
appreciate like your transparency. And I bet you there's a ton of people that have the same attitude with you.
well, I
And it's
appreciate it,
funny
man.
because I have some other friends good friends that were in the military around the same time frame and did go overseas and did a couple tours. But like, they are, even though they are good people, they have completely opposite mindsets when it comes to, like, you know, if you want to break it down to that, like liberal conservative,
Yeah.
like they're almost them and not us in a
Mm-hmm.
weird way, but doesn't mean that they're bad people.
No.
But like one of them, it's like one we got them back.
Yeah.
And the other one I know is a female, and she's very the them.
Yeah.
They them.
They, them.
No, she's not a they them, but like kind of, like okay, steering her back on.
Okay.
Was very like not a fan of my hunting,
Oh,
not
sure.
necessarily the biggest fan of guns. Like, and I always thought, like, man, like you're in the military, you know what it's like to work hard, you know what it's like to earn your own money, you know what it's like to get taxed on your own money.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get how you're that far on that side of things, you know, because generally it's people who work and get screwed on their own money tend to lean more conservative.
Mm-hmm.
But not always. You know, well, we're getting into this political thing.
Well,
this is up to Victory Drive.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying.
I'll tell you one thing real quick on that note. Bet you those people weren't in the combat arms field. They probably weren't infantry. So they're probably pogues. Like, it's a derogatory term that infantrymen came up with for people that weren't infantry. So when I was in basic training, all the drill sergeants always told us, like, hey, you know what? There's only two MOSs in the military, and MOS is military occupational specialty. So it's your job, right? He's like, there's only two MOSs in the military, and that's infantry and everybody else, because everybody supports the infantry. And it's one of those things where, we're, as an infantryman, you're kind of, I don't know if I'd say cocky, but very confident. And I don't want to say,
be, dude.
yeah,
If you weren't confident, there's problems on the home front.
Yeah. But talking to a lot of pogues, that's where a lot of them, the thems come from, I guess.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that a little bit. I see what you're saying. But you know, if you're an infantry and you're not confident, or if you, as a U.S. citizen, I want our infantrymen to be badasses.
Yeah.
I want them to be like rough dudes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want them to go in like kind of bullyish in a way. Like it's the same way. It's like the bully. That's not, I got to be careful here. Being a bully is never good, but if you're so confident and you're like, don't mess with me, no one's going to mess with you.
Yep.
That's what you want in the military, you know, like,
yeah, especially in the group of people. It used to be group of guys. Now it's just group of people, I guess. But, in that type of people, you really need them to be not second guessing themselves. They need to be going, because they're the ones actually getting up close. The whole point of the infantry is to close with and destroy the enemy. So close with, like, get close enough to effectively destroy the enemy. So they're not far away. They're not dropping bombs on them from the safety of their fixed wing fighter jet. They're actually face to face with these individuals that want to kill them. You know, so it's not pretty. It's not a. You can watch all the movies you want, and Hollywood does their take on war, and it's never pretty. Like, you're talking sweat in different places and rocks, and it's not pretty. It's not clean. It's a hard thing to do, and you don't want soft people doing a hard job. It's just not going to work out well. It's not going to work out well for anybody. So yeah, I'm the same way, where I think, we do. The infantry especially needs to be a little tough. You know, it needs to be a little rough. It maybe needs to be a little cocky.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's like if you hire a security guard and the dude's like, man, I don't know, those guys are pretty big and they're going to come over here and rob you. I'm like, whoa, dude, I hired you for this.
Yeah, right.
You're nervous. I'm nervous.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's a bad analogy, but you'd be like, hold on, what? You know, you got the wrong job, brother. You know?
Yeah, you need to go find a different job. I don't know, if you're not willing to, if you don't have the confidence in yourself to defend me when I'm paying you to defend me, then maybe you should look for a different employer. This ain't working out.
Something's up. But, you know, I mean, we haven't really talked so much about hunting. You know, we're focusing on, like, this is like a victory drive on Working Class on DeerCast, but there's so many veterans and active military that are into hunting. So many people that that are into that are also into hunting and firearms and stuff. So even though it's not related, it very much so is at the same time. So,
Yeah.
but no, man, I mean, I want to just do this with you, give you some airtime on our side of the platform to kind of, because we haven't done this yet. We've promoted Victory Drive, but we haven't like talked about what Victory Drive is to our normal listener, because you're on your own podcast feed. And so people have to go search it out. They don't just listen through our feed. So, but if this interests you guys at all, or Jacob sounds like an interesting enough dude, tune into Victory Drive and try some of the episodes out.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, man. Going back to real quick, if you had time for just a real quick story on it.
Yeah.
But going back to hunting and stuff, veterans and hunting and shooting and stuff, it's one of those things where when I got out, I knew from talking to other guys I've gotten out, and they went back home. They're like, I'm just going to take a little time. I deserve a little time to relax and not do much. And yes, that's right. You do deserve some relaxing time. But when I got out, I'm like, I'm getting back into hunting. I'm getting a job right away. I'm doing this, this, and this. And that worked well for me because I'm the type of guy where I need goals in order to be driven. If I don't have goals, then I'm not going to be driven. Then I'm going to end up being a sloth on the couch and not doing a whole lot. And hunting for me, it's a constant goal set. Like even if I go out this next hunting season, I shoot a 289-inch whitetail buck. It's one of those things where I'll be happy, I'll be stoked about it, but guess what? I'm going to still go out next year and have this just slightly different goals. And maybe it won't be to shoot a 290-inch whitetail, but it's one of those things where if you're into it, it's keeping you constantly setting goals and constantly looking forward to the next challenge. And there's so much stuff to get into. And man, for me personally, I know hunting has saved my life personally. So it's like one of those things, if I can even reach out to other veterans, because that's another thing too with veterans is the suicide rate is ridiculous. And I think a lot of guys get out, lose focus, lose passion. And what's a guy supposed to do that has constantly had goals and missions to accomplish every day while they're in the military, to getting out and being like, hey, good luck out there, buddy. And they get patted on the butt and send you out. And then you're looking around, you're like, okay, you go to a job and your boss is like, yeah, you know what, get what you need to do, get what you need done today. And yada, yada, yada. And you're like, okay, well, where's the drive in that? They feel like they get into a slump where there's like, every day's the same and every day kind of sucks. So why not just kill myself? And it's one of those things, man. Like hunting, I know for a fact it's something I look forward to, and it's helped me out in transitioning out of the military into the civilian world tremendously. And it gets you around like-minded people. And that's what this podcast is all about to me, is creating a community like the WCB community, but more targeted for veterans, law enforcement, and everyone that supports them. Like a whole community of people, of like-minded individuals that like to shoot, hunt, fish, hike, whatever, all that stuff, and bring them all together and have a good atmosphere like that. So,
dude, I love that too, because hunting it's healthy for your brain. Like once you tap into the level of like being calculated, making decisions, goal oriented, like it's good for your body and your brain. That's a good way to look at it. And it's a bummer that the statistic for veterans and suicide rate is where it is. It's just a bummer, man. Like
it is.
It's like I think all the little things, even though it doesn't feel like what you said, what you want to do, like if veterans want to tune in, they can relate to you and learn about the whatever subject or topic you're talking about. Like that is helping probably more than we'll ever give credit to, because like I know how I feel when I listen to your show or our new fishing podcast, Tackle on Tacos. I listened to the first episode today. It just launched, so this episode is recorded in advance from when it would be released. And it's like listening to it, it's fun, and it gives you a different perspective. Like there's a local radio show here called Dwyer Michaels. When I listen to it, it impacts me different, and I feel like I'm a part of their little trio while they're bullshitting. Where they probably don't think that way because they're just doing what they do, but they don't know how I feel when I consume the content.
Right. And that's the same. Dude, I totally understand, because that's exactly what, like when I got out of the Army and I Googled hunting podcasts, because I want to learn how to hunt, and especially bow hunt, because my buddy got me into bow hunting, and I didn't know anything about it, and he only knew what he knew, so I wanted to get some other takes, and that's how I found you guys and listening to Working Class Bowhunter and learn
Yeah.
through the conversations that you guys have had over the years. And like, that's the way I like to learn, and it's like I'm talking to my buddy about something that I'm interested in and want to learn about and love to
Yeah.
do. So it's awesome. Like that's what
Yeah.
I'm hoping to bring to other people as well. I guess in a different, but just a different side
Sure.
of things, I guess.
Well, I'm excited for the growth of Victory Drive. And I think one thing we should touch on real quick. So you and I have not known each other since we were kids. None of that.
Yeah.
Like we were at a trade show in Lincoln, Nebraska a few years ago. And you and your wife, Ashley, walked up and were like, hey, we listen to you guys. And you guys sat there and BS with us for a little bit. And literally we just hit it off from there.
Yeah.
Like that's where this all started.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because, man, I remember sitting. I think it was the week of that Nebraska show. I was sitting in the kitchen and I was looking at Ashley. I'm like, "What are we doing this weekend?" And she's like, "Oh, well, for once, we actually don't have anything going on." I'm like, "Okay, like you want to go to Nebraska?" And she's like, "For what?" And I was like, "A deer show." And she's like, "Well, I guess we're not doing anything. Sure." And I told her, I'm like, yeah, well, WCB is going to be there. Whitetail Adrenaline's going to be there and yada, yada, yada. And, it'd be cool just to see if they're cool or maybe they're not cool. I don't know. To see what it's all about. So
Yeah.
then we just drove off and drove 8 hours to Nebraska and met up with you guys and just hit it off. And man,
it's crazy the timeline. What made, like, you guys had nothing going on. You brought that up. She was down to go. We met you guys, hit it. Like, it's just crazy how everything happens for a reason.
It is. I think about that all the time. And not just with this, like this is crazy enough because I mean there was absolutely no intention of me being like, hey man, maybe if I talk to Curt, maybe I can slide in and get in the industry, it's nothing like that. It's just one of those things where I'm like, I just want to see if they are who they are,
You wanted to see if we were D-bags or not.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll either end up still liking them or maybe I'll just shut the podcast off after this. So
I wonder how many people we met that just were like, you guys just aren't that cool,
Probably not that many because you guys are cool. And if you're not cool, then I have really bad taste, I guess. So that makes me uncool too.
We're all just uncool together.
Yeah.
And guess what? If you're listening, you're not that cool either.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. But we're in it together. We're not that cool together.
And hey,
hashtag not that cool.
And hey, if we can be, so I mean, if we're all uncool together, that means Mark Drury's super uncool. So
he's the king of being uncool.
He's the uncoolest person out there, really.
That means Matt and Tim, also on DeerCast, are also super uncool with us.
So if I'm going to be in not the cool kids club with anybody, I'm glad it's with all you guys. So this is cool. I mean, this is not cool.
We get enough uncool people together, all of a sudden we become powerful enough that we're cool and they're not cool.
Yeah. Well, I think there are groups out there that do that.
This is getting culty. We better stop this.
You ever played Dungeons and Dragons?
No. Stop. I'm not going to any islands. We're good. Okay. Jacob, where can people find Victory Drive? If someone's interested in being on the show or has someone they want to recommend for the show, how can they get a hold of you for that?
Yeah. I'm most active on Instagram. So Victory Drive on Instagram. I also have Facebook, Victory Drive. Actually, it's Victory Drive Pod on Instagram, Victory Drive Pod on Facebook, and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm most active on Instagram though, because Facebook kind of sucks. And just hit me up there. Check me out. I'm on all the popular podcast platforms. Spotify, Apple, Google, all the good stuff. So check it out. Let me know if you like it, you hate it. If I suck, let me know. Either way.
And I'll put that in. I'll put the link to your show on Spotify and your Instagram and stuff in the description of this episode, so you can find it wherever you listen, or if you're on DeerCast, you'll see it there as well.
Perfect.
Jacob, appreciate you, buddy. I love you. Thank you for your service. I'm glad you're running the firearm side of things for us. It's turned into a really good family, and I couldn't be happier with the crew we have. So Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. No, thanks for bringing me on. This has been a blast, and like I said, I'm very excited for the future. This is gonna be sweet.
It's going to be a good time. And thank you to the listener or the viewer. If you're watching on DeerCast, hopefully you're listening and watching on DeerCast and supporting this community of us, the community of us, not the thems, right?
Right.
That's getting cold again. We'll get out of here. You know what to do. Go shoot a giant. Appreciate you guys. See you next week. Peace.